Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Dana here. Today I will be sharing my first ever art journal page. I am so excited to share this with y'all. I've been watching a ton of art journaling content lately, including the new mixed media art journaling series that Vicky Booten is doing. If you're interested and you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it. She's going through, each step, the basics. It's using a limited color palette. It's awesome. But for today's art journal page, I just used a mix of some of my favorite products, of course, distress inks, distress oxide inks. A lot of distress is featured in this art journal. So to start out here, I'm just breaking the page with some ink smushing and using two different colors. I started out with some antique linen distress oxide ink, and then I'm going on with some tattered rose. If you're interested, I do have a full supply list in the description box below. I do use affiliate links when available. They do not cost you anything extra. I just get a small kickback from any purchases that you make when using these links. It's just a way to help support the channel so I can keep bringing you all this different content. And to add a bit of shimmer, I just spritzed on some distress spritz, also in tattered rose. And then I dried that off with my heat tool. The set that I'm going to be using for all of the stamping and stenciling for this art journaling spread is this set from Sizzix Studio and Cat Kerr. If you haven't seen these are awesome. All of their sets come with stencils and stamps, so it really makes everything easy. You don't have to worry about, oh, do I have a stamp that coordinates with this or that or whatever. It's all in the set for you. So just grab a set that you like, sit down, grab some inks or paints, and get to crafting. The first stencil that I grabbed out of the set is this feather stencil, and I'm going to be stenciling that with some antique linen distress oxide ink. This will just kind of fade into the background and it'll just add a little bit of visual texture. And then to start off the stamping, I grabbed the flower border stamp that is in the set, and I'm just inking that up with tea dye distress oxide ink, and I'm just stamping along the sides of the page. I wanted to just add some visual interest and then kind of bring the eye towards the center of the page where my focal point will be. Then to add just a bit more visual interest, I grabbed one of the smaller text stamps and I'm just stamping that randomly on the pages. There's also this fun kind of bordery text stamp that's included, so I wanted to stamp that along the top and the bottom of the pages. The first one I did do upside down, but that's okay. It turned out okay in the end. Happy accidents and all that. And then of course I wanted to add a bit of Crackle paste. So I grabbed my Crackle paste in Opaque and then one of the other stencils that's in the set. And I'm just stenciling that on randomly on both of the pages. Now, unfortunately, my Crackle paste is starting to dry up a little bit. So this did go on a little thick, but I didn't want to sit and mess with it too much. For the focal image, I grabbed this beautiful lady stamp that is included in the set, and I'm inking her up in my all-time favorite Fallen Leaves ink. This is a VersaFine Clair ink. Now, admittedly, I did already stamp her on the pages, but the ink kind of wicked and it spread, so it created kind of a blurry image, and I didn't like that. So I decided just to stamp her on a piece of cream cardstock, and then I'll fussy cut her out. And then for coloring, I decided that I wanted to watercolor her with Distress watercolor pencils. The way that I like to use my watercolor pencils is I just leave them in the case and then I just pick them up with my water brush. This water brush happens to be from Spellbinders, but you could use any that you have. If you don't like using them straight out of the case, you can also make a palette with them with the shavings. Amy R does have a video on how to do that if you're interested. Once I got done watercoloring, I'm just gluing her on to my pages here with my Barely Arts glue. And you can see here where I stamped her originally, and she's a little bit blurry. So I'm glad I decided to cover it up. I wanted to add a bit of shadowing, so I'm just going in with one of the browns in the watercolor pencils and just adding some light shadowing all around the edges of this image. There's this awesome little number stamp that's also included in the set, so I just wanted to add that in a couple of different random places. And I'm using brush Corduroy Distress ink for that. Then I grabbed the third stencil that's included in that set, and I'm just randomly stenciling it on around the pages with Tea-Dye Distress Oxide ink. I decided that I wanted to pull a bit of the green that's in the image into the rest of the spread. So I grabbed Bundled Sage Distress Oxide Ink in the spray, and I'm just going to splatter that on. If you don't have it in the spray, you can always just splatter it on with a paintbrush if you just have the ink pad. And then I did the same thing with the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide Spray. And I'm just drying all of that off with my heat tool. And then of course I wanted to ink around the edges, so I just grabbed the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide Ink, and I'm just inking around all of the edges with a foam blending tool. And then to finish everything off, I grabbed this Do What You Love stamp that's in the set, and I'm inking that up with the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide Ink. I thought this stamp fit perfectly with my first art journaling pages. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you did like this video, please do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And as always, take some time to pamper your inner goddess, and I will see you in the next one.